What's going on YouTube? Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and it is the beginning of a new month, and you know that what that means. We are going to release 5 more new rentals for your ladder needs or even tournament needs. Okay, so all of these teams that we're going to show you have top cut results in either an online tournament, an in-person Premier Challenge, or an in-person mid-season challenge, right? And they've been used by multiple people. So, you know, we have a lot of good data. You know, these weren't just like one-hit wonder teams, which is good, right? We always want like solid, consistent teams on the channel. So this is what we're doing. And a lot of these teams were also made during coaching sessions that I had with people. So we made the team from scratch. I showed them how to do the EV spreads, and then they were able to take it into their locals and do relatively well with them. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and show off team number 1. Starting with team number 1 is an Okidogi team. Yes, it is finally here, the Okidogi Screens team. It was very much requested by a few people that once they found out some of the results that it got. And shout outs to Andre VGC for getting the multiple results. He got first place at a Sprout Tower tournament, okay, and then he got top 4 in another Sprout Tower tournament. The one that he won, he went with a very strong 8-1 result, and then the one that he got top 4 result, it was, I believe, 6-2, 6-3, one of the others, right? So both results very strong here, and you can see how the team functions, right? We have the screen set up with the Ninetales, and then the Okidogi is just able to set up behind the screens, you know, with potential bulk ups, and then just deal tons of damage with drain punches and, you know, gong shots here, right? And then Guard Dog is a very good ability, especially when you're next to some physical attackers like we have here. Because Intimidate's not only not going to work, but you'll actually give the Okidogi a +1 boost there. So, you know, it's very much appreciated. And then from here, it's just like, how do we support the squad? Well, we've got redirection support over here with the Ogre Pond, with Follow Me. We got Intimidate of our own with our Landorus. And then the Roaring Moon has a Tailwind here, of course. And it is a support Roaring Moon with Breaking Swipe, Terra Poison, and Knockoff here. So we have some good speed advantage with the Tailwind. We can make the Okidogi go zoom, as well as our own Roaring Moon, as well as our own Ogre Pond and Landorus. Okay, and we even have Ninetales going for Icy Wind speed control as well, right? So the whole idea is we're mitigating damage, and we're getting chip damage from our other options, and trying to set up potentially the Okidogi to sweep, right? Now, Okidogi is not the only one that could technically sweep on this team. We still have, you know, strong physical hitters, like, again, the Roaring Moon, Landorus, and Ogre Pond. These are all still, like, very hard-hitting Pokemon, you know, so they're still going to work relatively fine. And then the other special attacker on the team is the Heatran here. So remember how, you know, we showcased this trio in some of our other videos, this Ninetales, Landorus, Heatran combination. It's a very good defensive core, right? Because they both counter and help each other out in terms of, you know, balancing their weaknesses. This is an Assault Vest Heatran, which is something that Andre was utilizing here. And I think we used it as well. He just made a tweak to the EV spreads, but basically it is Terra Blast, Terra Fairy, okay? And then from there, it's just Heat Wave, Earth Power, and Flash Cannon. So the 3 common attack moves, and then you have the Terra Blast, Terra Fairy. And then the Assault Vest is very useful against, you know, something like an Earth Power from a Torkoal Helping Hand, especially, you know, in those Trick Room games. And we'll talk about that spread in a second, but you can pretty much see how the team can relatively function here. So it's a defensive team, it's a screens team. All right, so some of your games are going to be a little bit slower, but Okidogi is a menace, and it's got great stats overall. All right, so now let's take a look at the EV spreads and see how we did them. All right, so now we're taking a look at the EV spreads here. So starting with the Okidogi. Now, in the team building video that we posted on the channel, I actually had a different spread over there, but Andre was able to change it, and he wanted to go for a calc to survive a Terra Fairy Moonblast Fluttermane choice specs, right? Now, that being said, he was calcing for, I believe it was 252 modest, but I made a change for that because there's not too many 252 modest Fluttermanes in my opinion. Instead, I reduced it and made it about 116 modest, right? So I took away some of the SPDF and put a little bit more in the attack, at least hitting the first benchmark in the attack stat, which is Adamant 92. Okay, and then from there, we kept the HP relatively the same. You know what, 228 investment gets you to 192, which is optimal for the leftovers recovery. And then from there, 36 speed investment is just a speed creep, things on their Tailwind. That'll get you out past the 103 benchmark, you know, so this way you can outspeed, you know, Fluttermanes and Chenpaos in that matter. So That's good there. And then, of course, you just have 1 point left in the defense. Ninetales, also relatively self-explanatory. Timid 252 helps you outspeed the Ogre Pawns. And then from there, you just dump the rest into HP. You know, you only need 1 EV in the special attack in this case. It's just not meant to really do damage. It's just meant to stay on the field and deal a little bit of chip while trying to set up the Aurora Veil and get speed control with Icy Wind. And that's really what its job is there. So I wasn't really calculating for anything in that regard. So I just, you know, maxed the speed, and then whatever was left, I just dumped into HP and defense. All right. I'm sorry, the Roaring Moon. So 196 Jolly will do the job, but you know, I figured there would be other Roaring Moons going for that. So at that point, I decided to just max speed the Roaring Moon, and this is a Jolly Roaring Moon, by the way. And then the 60 HP, 180 defense investment lets you survive an Iron Hands Drain Punch, and non-intimidate needed. Okay, so this is what I call the support Jolly Roaring Moon set, because your job is just to, you know, set up Tailwind and click the occasional breaking swipe, you know, just to deal a little bit of chip damage, and then knockoff is still also relatively good at removing key items from certain Pokemon. So that's really what Roaring Moon's job here is. So I decided to just adjust the spread a little bit, and then just go with this defensive investment, which is what he wanted anyway, as well as what some others wanted anyway. So, you know, I catered to that, and we built the Roaring Moon in that regard. All right, Landorus is relatively standard. This is the same Landorus that we've been using throughout regulationE, just max speed Adamant with the 116 benchmark, and then from there you just dump the rest into HP. And then the Heatran over here, so modest 236 is the third benchmark, the third bump. And then, you know, the speed investment, that's just to make sure that the, you know, the Okidogi and the Heatran weren't speed tying in that regard. So I made that adjustment because I saw that when Andre was making the squad, he actually put both speeds with the Okidogi relatively the same. So I made one a little bit faster than the other. And then from there, I didn't really change anything. I kept the HP pretty much the same in that regard. And, you know, that's all there is to it with the Heatran. It can survive, like I said, the Earth Power from a Torkoal in the Trick Room matchup, assuming Helping Hand from Indeedee in that sense. But yeah, you don't even need to tear up for that, by the way. So that was the only real calc with the Assault Vest in that sense. But yeah, the Ogre Pawn is another Ogre Pawn that we've been using for quite a while now. 252 HP, 84 defense. Without Terrestrialization is enough to survive a Hisuian Arcanine Flare Blitz. Okay, so that's the main calc there. And then the Adamant 76 gets it to the first benchmark. And then from there, we just put a little bit in special defense. So this way we have a nice even number. So this way, when we do terrestrialize it, it'll be an optimal whole number as opposed to a decimal where it would round down. And then the 84 speed creeps the 139 speed benchmark. Okay, and I believe we put it to about 141 with that 84 speed investment. So that's important as well. All right, so that's it for the Okidogi team. Let's go ahead and go into rental number 2. Rental number 2 is a hyper offensive team with the Dark Urshifu this time. So this is a team that we made during coaching with Inferno Prod, aka Philip Cohen. And if you don't know Philip, he's one of my clients that's been using a lot of our teams and doing relatively well. And this is one of the ones that he's used. So he got top 8 at a recent Premier Challenge. And then he also got top 4 in an online tournament with it. And I don't remember the name of it at the top of my head. But either way, good results all around, and it's pretty standard. So, you know, he came to me and he said he wanted to try, you know, Tailwind offense, but, you know, with a couple of twists, and these are some of those twists. So instead of the Urshifu Rapid Strike, we actually ended up going with the Ogre Pun instead with Swords Dance, which is actually kind of nice, and we got to see it on stream at the Brookland tournament, and it was doing relatively well. It was great. It was doing the job that it needed to do against the opposing Urshifus, which is nice. And then as far as like still having an Urshifu on the team, we decided to go with the dark one with Focus Sash. And that was for the, you know, the size span matchup, you know, just to punch those Indeedees, you know. So and in that sense, it was actually really, really nice. And then from there, some relatively standard options here with Tornadus, Arcanine, and Fluttermane. But we went with a little bit more of a balanced approach and actually threw in Iron Hands here as opposed to something like maybe a Rillaboom or Chien-Pao here. So the whole idea was to actually have Fake Out on this team, so this way you could potentially set up the Ogre Pond Swords Dance. And Iron Hands is just very, very strong in the mirror matchup against like other Tornadus teams, right? Especially if they have like Torn, Ursh, or even Chien-Pao. You can pressure all 3 slots actually, you know, with either wild charges or drain punches in that sense. So Yeah, and then the Tornadus with Sunny Day over here, so that has a couple of purposes. One, it can, you know, of course, do force the opponent to do reduced damage with their own Urshifu Rapid Strike, and as well as enable our Flutter Mane with Photosynthesis and allow our Arcanine to do even more damage with Flare Blitz. So I thought it was a great idea to use. We made the team and he did relatively well. So the Choice Specs Flutter Mane. So the fourth move was actually up for grabs there. We talked about adding a couple things like Icy Wind or Paris Song or, you know, Power Gem. There was a lot of things that came up in discussion, but ultimately Philip just wanted to use Thunderbolt, you know, just to pressure some other bulky water types there. So, you know, for that reason, you know, we kept it on there. But really that slot is, you know, it's very debatable. And if you want to use the same team, just change the fourth slot, you're more than welcome to do so. I think a lot of different moves work there. It just all depends on how you want to use it. And this is the way Philip wanted to use it, so we kept it there. All right, so that being said, you know, it functions relatively well as far as like a typical hyper offensive team. You click Tailwind, you do a ton of damage with a lot of your options here with Arcanine and Urshifu. You have Fake Out Pressure with the Iron Hands. You still have Intimidate support from your Arcanine. You don't have Redirection with the Ogerpon, but you do have Swords Dance, and that comes up big if you can position it properly. So that was the reason that we added it there. And then, of course, the Flutter Mane is another big special attack damage dealer because it is running the choice specs. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the EV spreads here. All right, starting here with the Arcanine. So basically, we just wanted to keep it max speed Arcanine, you know, just in case of potential mirror matchups, you know, who has the faster rock slides, who has the faster E-speed in that sense. So we figured just put it at max and then just go Adamant 196 for the benchmark. And then 44 investment into HP was okay. You know, it gets you to 176. And if there's a Rillaboom on the field, you'll get optimal Grassy Turn recovery. And then from there, you know, whatever's left was the 4 defense and 12 speed F. All right. The Tornadus is a Tornadus EV spread that we've been using for a very, very long time. It's a bold set, which allows you to live a lot of physical moves, namely the Urshifu, Mystic Water, Adamant 156 Surging Strikes, Terra Water. So you can live that. And then, of course, the Terra Steel there, that's just for the rock stuff and as well as the Chien-Pao ice moves. So in that sense, it was really, really nice and came in clutch on stream for Philip when he actually terrestrialized it in front of an Arcanine to be able to resist the E-Speed, and it lived, which was huge because, you know, you get to preserve an option for another turn. All right, the Flutter Mane here does a couple of things. That speed investment, 132 speed, will allow you to outspeed max speed modest Flutter Manes, and then this investment of 116 HP and 196 defense will allow you to live all Adamant Chien-Pao attacks. Okay, especially if they're, you know, whether it's Sucker Punch, Icicle Crash, Ice Spinner, you're gonna live it, but you'll also live Heavy Slam from an Iron Hands after an Intimidate. Okay, so that was pretty good. And then from there, Urshifu is just straight 252, 252, focus sash set, nothing else needs to be said. And the Ogerpon is the same Ogerpon that we used in the previous team, right? This is just a Swords Dance set. I kept it the same. You know, I feel like it still does what it needs to do. Again, the 252 HP, 84 defense survives an opposing Flare Blitz from an Hisuian Arcanine, and that's really all we wanted it to do. All right, and then other than that, the Iron Hands is the same Iron Hand set that we've been using for like half a year, you know, with the second benchmark in Adamant 156, max speed def, a little bit of speed for the speed type potentially, and then 76 HP investment is essentially just what's left over. All right, so that's it. Let's go into rental number 3. Next up with rental number 3 is our Landorus Incarnate team, and a couple people got results with this one, namely in Andre VGC yet again. Again, he's the one with the Okidogi team, and then also Miguel VGC used this team in some of his tours. So Miguel was able to use this in also a Spear Pillar tournament, all right, where he got second place there, and he also used it in Michael's Wide League tour, and he got 7th over there. And then top 4 results from Andre, of course. So 3 results with this squad. I think there's more. I just don't remember who else used it, but you know, at least with these, this is what we're looking at, and it's a very, very strong team. This time, again, roaringmoon comes back yet again along with Arcanine. This time with Gholdengo here. So we're going with this core of roaringmoon, Arcanine, Gholdengo. It's a very, very standard core to build around, just because you have the Tailwind support, you have the Intimidate, and then you have Breaking Swipe, all allowing the Terra Dragon Gholdengo to be able to set up nasty plots and click the good old Make It Rain, right? And then from there, you got Fake Out with your Iron Hands. You got redirection support from the Ogerpon. Yet again, all useful in trying to set up the Tailwind or the Nasty Plot. And then all of a sudden here, you have the Landorus Eye, another strong special attacker here, and supported very well with the Ogerpon here, right? Anytime you have like a Landorus and an Arcanine on the same team, it just almost inherently implies that you're gonna have the Ogerpon, because you really need to redirect the water moves, especially from like Urshifu for that matter, right? So this Landorus, I decided to go with a slower, bulkier Modest set, but have Substitute on it, and that's going to be good into like certain Trick Room games, where you just hide behind a sub and just click Earth Power and click Sludge Bombs, especially Terra Poison Sludge Bomb, and that it's just going to do so much damage. And Landorus is really rising in the ranks as of late, and I'm glad that the team got the results that it did. But either way, you got the support Roaring Moon here, knocking off key items, being faster than a lot of things, and then clicking Tailwind, making sure your Gholdengo and Landorus are outspeeding and dealing the damage they need to deal. And then the Ogerpon and the Arcanine are supporting with the Follow Me's and the redirection support and the Intimidates. And then, of course, Iron Hands just does Iron Hand things, right? Nothing else really needs to be said here. But, you got all your tools here, your Intimidator, your Fake Outer, your Redirector, your Speed Control Mon, and you have some setup here. Okay, so we have a good squad here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the EV spreads. All right, again, starting with the Roaring Moon. So this is the same exact Roaring Moon that we had in the other team. Again, max speed Jolly is what we're going for, just to outspeed potential mirror matchups, as well as some of the slower Flutter mains, which is important. And then, again, like we said, the defensive investment with 60 HP and 180 defense is just meant to survive the Drain Punch from an Iron Hands, okay? Then the Gholdengo here, again, 236 HP investment is just optimal for the leftovers recovery. We hit the second bump in Modest Nature with 132 special attack, the first one being Modest 52, but we want a little bit more damage out of our Gholdengo, right? So 132 is the way to go, and then from there, the rest of the speed went into... the rest of the investment went into speed, putting it at 121, which is important. It'll outspeed the Genies under Tailwind. Actually, I'm sorry, after a +1 in that sense. So that was really good. The Arcanine is the same set, 44 HP, 196 Adamant, and then max speed, of course. The Ogerpon. So this Ogerpon was actually a little bit different than mine. You still have 252 HP investment and 84 defense, but a little bit more attack and not so much speed and a little bit more special defense. This is VGC Corner's Ogerpon. This is what Miguel decided to use, and it works, right? So shoutouts to Brady Smith and the VGC Corner for this spread. Miguel was able to borrow it and use it, and he didn't look back. So great job, guys, over there. And then the Iron Hands, I took a different approach this time around on a Tailwind team. So I look at that speed investment, 108 speed investment, still Adamant 156, of course, right? But I took away a little bit of the HP and I took a tiny bit from SpDef and I put more into speed. This is so that under Tailwind, you're able to outspeed a Chi-Yu, a max speed Chi-Yu, and just hit it with a Drain Punch and then, laugh in his face a little bit. So you're definitely going to win a lot of the mirrors in terms of fake out pressure. And under Tailwind, you're going to outspeed those base 100s like a Chi-Yu, so that's going to be good. And then you can also outspeed, technically, those Urshifus for that matter, if they don't have a Choice Scarf, so that's going to be good as well. And then, just lots of different things you can outspeed. Landorus too, right? Landorus, you can outspeed it if you're able to knock off the Choice Scarf first, and then all of a sudden your Iron Hands is going to be faster than them, right? So that's going to be good. And then the Landorus, like I said, just 116 Modest for the benchmark there, and then almost max speed there. It's just really, really nice. The bulk comes in handy a little bit, so do with it with what you will, but that's pretty much it in terms of our sets here. So let's go into team number 4. Rental number 4, and this is yet another Roaring Moon, but this is a different Roaring Moon set. By the way, this is 3 Roaring Moons this time around. A lot of people wanted Roaring Moon, so we ended up building a lot of Roaring Moon teams, and they all did well. But this is a Dragon Dance Roaring Moon, and this is an Adamant Nature one as opposed to the Jolly one. So, do with that with what you will, but we wanted to make it aggressive behind screens, kind of like the Okidogi team a little bit, but you have some other support options here, namely in the Milotic. So we actually did this before. We actually had a Roaring Moon Milotic team back in like the first month of Reggie, in October. But that team looked a little bit different then. We had a Heatran on that team, and we also had Iron Hands over there. Now we have some different options. We have Gholdengo here, and we also still have the Icy Wind Milotic with Terra Dragon this time. along with competitive nature again. So the idea here is with the Milotic, you're able to deter some of those intimidate users like an Arcanine, for example, and then potentially just KO it with Scald or slow things down with Icy Wind. You have the Ninetales to set up screens, all needed so that Roaring Moon and or Gholdengo will be the setup sweepers in the end game, right? And again, this is another team that was requested and built. Hold on, let me backtrack. This was another team from Philip. He wanted to continue using Roaring Moon Ninetales, okay, because he was successful with it back in October. So we decided to take that team, revamp it, and remodernize it a little bit. And he wanted to take a different direction and said, as opposed to the Arcanine, he wanted to use Landorus here and still use the Flame Ogerpon, right? And he actually got a very, very strong result here. He got second place in a big 100+ person tournament. So shout outs again to Philip for doing relatively well with that squad. I think it was a really, really good placement there. It was, it was the Tommy Tour, right? It was the Tommy Tour, and you know, a lot of good players there, and to see him get second with this team is very, very good. And he's comfortable with it. He's played Roaring Moon, Milotic, Ninetales for, you know, hundreds of games, so he's very comfortable with it. But anyway, in terms of the Ogerpon, it's a follow me set with Woodhammer. The Landorus is Choice Scarf, still very, very standard. Both of them are very, very standard in all honesty. And normally the Ninetales would have Icy Wind here, but because it's on the Milotic, I decided to let's just be aggressive with the Blizzard here. You can technically go for like other support moves like Encore, for example. I think Encore is also a very, very good tech move to have on Ninetales here. But as it stands, this team was very, very strong in how Philip used it. So, you know, we decided to just turn it into a rental over here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at these EV spreads. All right, so starting with the Roaring Moon here, and again, you can kind of almost see it's a similar set, but there's a couple things, right? First of all, it's adamant nature, all right? And that means we're gonna have a little bit more attack investment. You still have that 60 HP, 180 defense investment for the Iron Hands, but now what we're doing is we're taking away the max speed and making it a little bit slower because again, we have Dragon Dance, and after 2 dances, you're just able to outspeed an opposing Iron Bundle with the booster energy. So that was the idea there, but of course, we still have a bunch of EVs left over, so we just threw them all into the attack stat. 140 attack adamant is still going to be a very hard-hitting Roaring Moon. And then if you got screen support, it's going to be quite nice. The Ninetales here is a Terra Ghost Ninetales here with 252. And then from there, you just go into the Gholdengo, the same set. I didn't really need to change anything because it was still solid and consistent. Philip wanted a little bit more damage on the Landorus. So instead of adamant 116, this Landorus is 196, right? So we took a little bit away from the HP. It just made it harder hitting. And the whole thought process there was that a lot of teams, if they're calcing against Landorus, they're calcing for adamant 116. It's the most common investment. So Philip is saying, let's ruin some of those damage calcs and let's invest a little bit more, which is exactly what we did. So we pushed it to 196, and then from there, you know, the rest was history. The Milotic set is still my same one from October. It's still very good in what it's supposed to do. You get the HP even number for the Citrus Berry recovery. The 212 investment, along with 172 HP, allows you to survive the Iron Hands Wild Charge. And then certain Rillabooms, you can also survive Grassy Glide if you have, depending on their investment. But if you have Intimidate, you're just going to live it all. And then the Ogerpon, same thing, Adamant 156. Just a hard-hitting Ogerpon, especially after +1, and then 252 HP with that bulk is going to be good. And then 68 HP, 68 speed puts that at the 139 mark. So this way, you know, after a ±1, you are able to outspeed the Fluttermanes and the Chien-Paos in that sense. All right, if it ever comes down to it. All right, so let's go on into the final rental number 5. All right, the 5th and final rental. You waited long enough, and this is it. You waited till the end of the video, and I promise I will not disappoint with this one. We've got Moltres back again, and if you are a follower of the channel, you know how much we love Moltres. We've been able to make very solid teams with Moltres throughout the Scarlet and Violet era, and I wanted to focus this time on Arcanine, Ninetales, Sinistcha, Moltres. I wanted to focus around that core of 4, and then just the last 2 slots I was playing around with a little bit. I had a little bit of help with some of these things, you know. So shout outs to Neil VGC. You know, I ran it by him a little bit, and he gave a couple suggestions. But we ultimately ended up with Iron Hands and the Swords Dance Ogerpon. So originally I had Kamo over there because Kamo and Sinistcha have been a very, very good combination. And then, you know, just behind screens, they're able to just do relatively well. But this time around, I wanted to just, you know, maybe just stay aggressive here. So we went with Swords Dance Ogerpon instead. It's the same Swords Dance Ogerpon that we had in Philip's hyper offensive team. But basically, again, the way the team works, you set up screens with Ninetales, you're just able to live behind the bulk. Moltres doesn't die, you're able to get Berserk boosts, you know, especially with the Citrus Berry, double dip into it. And then from there, the Sinistcha is just able to help it recover. And then from there, you know, you're just able to deal a ton of damage. Now, if you look at the Sinistcha, this is a different kind of Sinistcha. It is the Calm Mind set. Now, I have seen, you know, Sinistcha have great success with Calm Mind behind screens. And now sometimes, maybe you don't even bring the Moltres. All right, and instead Sinistcha becomes the late game sweeper and the late game ender with the Calm Mind stuff. You're just sitting there clicking Calm Mind, recovering over time with, you know, with your matcha gachas, and it just does so much there. And then the Arcanine over there, it's a Will-O-Wisp Arcanine, support Arcanine here with Terra Dragon as opposed to Fairy, right? So you're able to you know, neutralize the ground weakness as well as resist the water attacks from the Urshifu. And then, you know, whatever's physical around, like let's say Iron Hands, another Roaring Moon, for example, you're just able to Will-O-Wisp and just neutralize them completely from the game, right? And then from there, again, the Sinistcha is able to provide redirection support with Rage Powder. The Ninetales has Icy Wind for speed control. The Iron Hands is a Terra Water Iron Hands this time around, but a standard set. And then, like we said, the Ogerpon is just doing what it needs to do by being aggressive with the Swords Dance. So 3 setup Pokemon here. So lots of options in best of 3. Sometimes it can get a little bit passive, but again, you're just mitigating so much damage here with Screens, Intimidate, and Will-O-Wisp. And then from there, you have like Calm Mind, and then the Terra Ogerpon. Like you're getting a Spadef boost anyway with the Screen/Intimidate, or the Calm Mind boost, which is a Spadef boost anyway, you know, behind Intimidating Screen. So you're able to take a lot of hits very, very well in the right position, and then from there, the opponent just can't break you, and then you just potentially sweep, right? So some of the things I like to do with this team is just keep the Moltres healthy by switching in the Sinistcha, then protecting one turn, switching it back out, getting something else in, and then the following turn, switch the Sinistcha back in, get even more health on the Moltres, and, you know, go for some, you know, big attacks from there, right? Sometimes the Ogerpon becomes a sweeper with Swords Dance, so, you know, the opponent has to give it a trick. And then from there, you know, it's just, it all comes down to matchups, right? But it's a good team. I was using it a lot. I like how it plays, but, you know, that's just because I'm a Moltres player. So hopefully some of you guys can have some good success as well. All right, let's take a look at the EV spreads. Okay, so starting with the Moltres here, this is actually the same set that we've been running since October. So, you know, optimal Citrus Berry recovery with the HP investment. The 132 defense along with that will help you survive the Adamant 156 Iron Hands Wild Charge. You also live 252 Choice Band Rock Slide from Hisuian Arcanine. So you have that going for you. You will not live the Chien-Pao Ice attacks, okay? So you do need some Intimidate support there, or Screens, but without it, you ain't living. So unless you terrestrialize it, that is a dead Moltres in front of a Chien-Pao. But other than that, you are hitting the first benchmark there with modest 76, and then the rest just goes into speed in that regard. So, you know, just a little bit of speed on Moltres is always pretty good. Arcanine, same set. You know, again, we have the berry there, so, you know, we are going to get in range of it, you know, quite often because we don't have too much bulk here. You know, and it's very easy to just go Choice Band Arcanine over here, right? But I wanted to do the Arcanine a little bit different on this team and just keep providing that Will-O-Wisp support, but still having a little bit of offense, you know, with that Adamant 196 investment. All right. The Ninetales is the same as the other teams, except this one is Terra Water. The Sinistcha, 252 bold, 180 defense. So that is for the Flare Blitz from the Hisuian Arcanine, Banded Hisuian Arcanine, right? And if you do need Intimidate there a little bit, but you can live it. So that was the reason for going bold. And then from there, you know, you don't really need special attack here. The Sinistcha is just meant to stay on the field, you know, click Rage Powders or the occasional Calm Minds and recover over time at Matcha Gacha. Or to potentially set up the Trick Room here, which is also what we have here for quote-unquote speed control in that sense, because we have a lot of slow options over here. And then the Ogerpon is still the same Ogerpon, you know, with some of the other Ogerpons that we've been using, you know, and then the Iron Hands is also still the same Iron Hands that we've been using for a very, very long time. Nothing else needs to be said. You know, it's very, very familiar Clover spreads here. So with that regard, I hope you enjoyed the team. All right, folks, that's it. You got all 5 rentals. Hopefully you give them a try. Let me know how you do. Again, they've all been tested and proven throughout the month of November. They have the tournament results to back up the claim that they are solid teams. So hopefully they will serve you well in December. If you got a Premier Challenge, if you got a mid-season challenge coming up, feel free to take one of these teams, use it however you like, maybe adapt them and update them if you want to you know, according to your play style. Feel free to do that. Of course, that's why we're here, right? We're here to give you those resources, those starting points, and then from there make some tweaks, you know, depending on how you like it. But as the teams are right now, you know, they're gonna be good for you. All right. And if you want to build a different kind of team, right? You know, if you have your upcoming tournaments like San Antonio coming up, that's the other regional. Feel free to sign up on the channel for coaching. We have it available. If you look in the video description, there is a link to join the channel with the tier 3 sub. And then from there, you're able to schedule a one-on-one Discord session with me. And then we can build you a team that you need the way you like it. So this way you can take it to that tournament and do relatively well there and get some CP and be on your way to the World Championships. All right. Also in the comment section, there is the same link. It's a pinned comment. So if you want to click that link as well for coaching, again, it's a tier 3 sub or tier 4 if you want the whole shebang with it. But either way, feel free to join the Discord. You're able to interact with the rest of my community as well. As well as you're just able to message me too. So without further ado, we'll be back with another video. Peace out, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy the squads.